I always come back. Good morning, good night, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another grand-tastic video. Today we'll be talking about why Five Nights at Freddy's is one of the smartest games of all time. Man, if I could only make videos as consistent as Scott makes his games, that's not an exaggeration. But what exactly does make a game smart? How do you define a game as smart? Well, Sid Meier, the creator of the Civilization series, explains what makes a game smart or keeps the player coming back. The first thing that Sid Meier said was creating a sense of linear progression. The second thing he said was make the player constantly want to play one more turn. The third thing that he said was make the player feel above average. If you want a more in-depth analysis on how to classify what is a smart game, I'll leave a video by Matt Pat, who made a video about video game addiction and how they exactly addict or keep the player coming back. Let's start with number 1, creating a sense of linear progression. What does that mean? Well, it means that there is certain progression throughout the game. Skill trees and experience points are very great examples in that skill trees, while not seeming linear, in the end are linear. Experience points are the same way, in that there are levels. The sense of progression in Five Nights at Freddy's is that there are different nights or levels, 6 to be exact, and an extra 7. But PBJ, how do you accomplish this with there only being 7 levels? One word: clock. It may seem odd to overlook such a useless timer in the upper right hand corner, but it plays a huge role in making it seem longer than it really is. Think about it. Looking at the clock a lot, especially if you're at school, the more you look at it, the longer it seems for the minutes to go by. This applies to FNAF in that the more you glance at the clock, the more hours seem to go by much slower. But in actuality, the game still only lasts 8 minutes. The power bar also plays a huge role too, at least in the first one. When you look at the clock, you will immediately check your power because you want to estimate if you have enough power to survive the night. You start to panic. You close both doors because you hear footsteps and forgot to check the camera. You frantically search through the cameras trying to find out where they are. If this sounds familiar, then that's because it's happened to nearly everybody who has played the game. When you die because of these circumstances, your brain gets a little impulse telling you to go back because of the mistake you made. Now, let's talk about number 2. Make the player want to take an extra turn. Now, how in the name of Scrap Trap do you do this with such little content and the level only 8 minutes? Well, it has to do something with your brain and how it reacts to certain things. If you didn't watch the video Matt Pat made because you didn't listen to me, well, let me sum it up for you. Matt Pat said that the excitement from completing a task or a level in a game comes from the reaction of dopamine. Dopamine works like this. Imagine 2 brain receptors. On both of them is 3 dopamine cells. When you complete a task, or in this case, beat the level, these receptors start working until the other receptor, hey, why don't you send that dopamine over and I'll send it over there. Now, the dopamine on one of the receptors transfers over to the other receptor and the second one does the same. Now, this is just a small part because every time you get that feeling like you're going to die or get jump scared, millions of these receptors explode in your brain. This might sound like a bad thing, but it's actually very important keeping you attached to anything. The downside of too much dopamine is that, like many other things, start to wear and deteriorate. Eventually, if you have many reactions to the same thing, you will feel the effects of overused dopamine. So we talked about why you get excitement, but how does this apply to Five Nights at Freddy's? Well, jump scares. We all know that the best jump scares come out of nowhere. But why? Well, just like I said, the dopamine gets transferred and thrills you. The reaction to this dopamine transfer is that your brain wants that impulse, that excitement. They get addicted because we as humans crave excitement. And that's why you feel compelled to play one more turn. And FNAF does this to exponential success. Finally, make the player feel above average. You may, at first, thought the last paragraph was a stretch. Then, you don't even FNAF, bro. Anyways, how do you accomplish this where you can't even move 2 centimeters in front of you? Well, that has to do with a couple of things. One of these is the absolute stupidity of the animatronics. Really, it sounds crazy, but believe me when I tell you how stupid these things are. In the second game, when they come into your office, they're fooled by a spare Freddy head, even though we clearly know 3 Freddys is just a little too much Fazbear. But what about the first game? Well, same case. If you turn on the light and they're there, they will wait there for 3 seconds until the door jams and they jump scare you. Now, like I said, it seems like a stretch, and to be quite frank, it is. But this has the opposite effect for horror games because you're trying to make the player feel vulnerable, which releases, say it with me now, dopamine. So it gets a pass because that's what horror games try to do. They get you that thrill from vulnerability. Now to conclude this up, FNAF is very special to me. I grew up with these games and I can firmly say that these games are some of my favorite games of all time. While maybe not the smartest game in existence, I will give it credit for being a great example of a perfect indie game. It's cheap, if not free. It has simple controls and is easy to pick up and play, but hard to master. Thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to leave comments telling me if you like this style of video, me going into depth. If you enjoyed it, leave a like. But if you didn't, then go ahead and hit that dislike button. Always helps me. And as always, have a nice day. And Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, you filthy animal.